Hi guys, and welcome to episode 36 of the Two Pesewas podcast.
Yeah.
As usual, it's me, Peaches,
and Teddy.
All right. So let's just jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No long term. So, if you didn't know, a new coronavirus has hit the town of Wuhan in China.
I was like, should I talk about? I'm glad you did.
I was going to talk about it a couple of weeks ago, and then it came back into the news.
Because it's spread now.
Exactly.
It's cross countries.
Exactly. So sometime late December 2019, this virus hit the town, Wuhan in China, like I said. And the coronavirus family includes those that cause the common cold. But then when it's found in animals, it can evolve into something more dangerous. Now, the two other human coronaviruses that you may have heard of are MERS, which was the Middle East
respiratory
syndrome, which has killed more than 800 people since 2012, and SARS, that is the severe acute respiratory syndrome, which first occurred in 2003 and killed more than 700 people. So similar symptoms, you've got a fever, you've got a cough, sometimes you get pneumonia, and if you're unlucky, you die. Now, the outbreak of this one is said to have started at a seafood and livestock wholesale market.
So they've pinpointed the ground zero, patient zero kind of thing.
They have. And usually the coronavirus affects mammals, but it can be transferred from animals to humans. Again, the symptoms are like all the other ones. You've got a cough, you've got a fever, difficulty in breathing with this one. Now, as at now, I think about 14 people have been known to have died from this, with over about 400 people being infected. And the virus is not transmittable from human to human. Also, 15 medical personnel in China and a doctor have been infected as well. So you can imagine the chaos and the panic that is starting to occur, because remember, SARS was also a huge thing. People were panicking. It was a pandemic. Now, the problem is that currently there's no vaccine for the virus, and also they haven't been able to pinpoint which animal. I happened to listen to the radio this morning. I already made my notes, but I happened to listen this morning, and apparently the snake was a snake.
Really? Because I saw something that said they speculating that it may have come from people who consume bat soup, because people eat bat soup, and then if they ingested like infected bat, blah blah blah. So.
Right. So this morning, I just heard it this morning. Apparently, I think it's not confirmed, but they are thinking that it's a snake. And if you think of the fact that it's actually mammals who transmit these viruses, that's very scary. It means now reptiles are also able to transfer the virus. And there have been cases reported in Japan, in South Korea, in Thailand, more recently in Taiwan. A 55-year-old woman was also infected. In the US recently, there's been a case, as well as in the United Kingdom, there's also a reported case. Now, you might think, we're in Ghana and it's far away from us. Not really. There are a lot of Chinese people who do business in Ghana. They're coming from those things.
In and out.
Yeah, so we need to be vigilant. We need to do our checks and everything well. So the guy who got it in the US, apparently he went to the town of Wuhan in China. He didn't go to the livestock market, the livestock and seafood market, but he contracted the disease. So obviously he must have got it from somebody else.
Right.
So yeah, human to human transmission, we need to be vigilant as we were with SARS. Now the WHO has said there are some things you can do. You can wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water, or use alcohol as a sanitizer, and cover your nose and mouth when you're sneezing or coughing. You already should be doing that regardless of coronavirus or not.
And don't forget, to interrupt, we've upgraded from cough into your hand to cough into your elbow, because they said, of course, you're going to use your hands, so try and cough into your elbow.
Absolutely. And you should also avoid contact with symptomatic people. And you should thoroughly cook your meat and eggs as well. That is also very important. And avoid contact with live animals or wild animals to care of this. So we've got to be on the lookout. The coronavirus, it started somewhere in China. It might spread all over the world. Just be conscious of what's happening.
Absolutely.
That's my
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine in the news features some rather positive news out of Ghana.
Oh, nice.
So recently, the UCC, which is the University of Cape Coast, matriculated 59 inmates of Nsawam prison.
Oh.
Via their newly established PTEP initiative. So PTEP is called means Prison Inmates Tertiary Education Program. So what it does is it offers diploma courses in subjects such as accounting, management, business, and education via distance learning. And so they established one campus at the actual Nsawam prison. And as I said, thus far, 59 prisoners have enrolled in the program.
That's great.
So if you've been listening to the podcast, which you should have, you'll know that I previously talked about prison conditions in Ghana, and the fact that they're deplorable. And I've also talked about the fact that or not just me, but generally the idea and the philosophy of prison used to be both punitive but rehabilitative as well, because the idea is you're supposed to correct these individuals so that they can reintegrate into society. But now it's just become a cage for human beings, right, where they go in and become worse because they're treated poorly, they're mixed with serious criminals are mixed up with, and you just sort of end up half crazy and worse than you went in. So, and that is apart from Scandinavia. As usual, the Scandinavians have done it right. Their prisons you can check out on daily chits and stuff. Like they don't, so that you literally can go and integrate back in society after you've served your term. So I think this is a wonderful step in the right direction. Because it means that once these individuals come out of prison, they will actually have some skill set with which to try and navigate society once again.
That's good.
Yes. However, I do have to wonder, obviously, their employment chances, given that, they have prison records now. I mean, it's very difficult to find a job in Ghana as it is. Much less if, they ask you, where have you been for the last 7 years? And you're like, in Nsawam prison. You know what I mean? But I think, again, we need serious overhaul of our prison system and even our judicial system, really, because you get 25 years for stealing a goat and things like that. Exactly. So, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous as it stands. So I'm glad to have been able to talk about this because we have, I guess, one silver lining here, or one bit of good news in what is pretty much often very, very bad news in terms of Ghana and prison system. So that's my really short.
Oh, yeah, nice one.
Yes, that's it for this week
great,
for me.
Great.
So, great job, University of Cape Coast. I'd like to see them in more prisons, maybe. Do we have more prisons? We must have. Okay, there's definitely Usher Fort Prison.
Oh, right.
But yeah, wonderful initiative, and best of luck to those 59 new students.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay, and with that, we're on to songs of the week. Today I have 3 songs for you. The first one is from an artist called Karis, and the song is called The Waiting Line. Karis was born Jasmine Elizabeth Winifred. She's an R&B artist from South London, and she says she's inspired by Erykah Badu, Amy Winehouse, Frank Ocean. Her first EP was called Into the Wilderness and came out in 2016. But The Waiting Line is from her second EP, which is called Summer Stories. Now, the interesting thing is when I heard the Waiting Line, I immediately thought of Frank Ocean's Pink Matter. Because it sort of has that
song.
Me Too.
My God, I love that
song.
It
has that. It's very. It has some similarities in there. So when I read about it and she said Frank Ocean, she got inspired by him. I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. The EP is a 6-song. The EP is 6 songs long, and I think it's a very lovely tribute to classic R&B. It's like really light and really you can listen to it without skipping, basically. And she's currently not managed by anyone, and she's unsigned as well. So somebody might need to pick up.
Look sharp.
Yeah, look sharp. And so yeah, that's The Waiting Line from Just Karis. The second song is a song called Eternal Light, and it's by the Free Nationals. Now I stumbled upon this when I was listening to it, and then the person started singing. I'm like, why does this voice sound so pleasantly familiar? So I'm listening. I said, I know this is actually Chronics. So yeah, so this is Eternal Light. And
you always deep in some reggae.
I love my reggae. So now the Free Nationals are actually the live band which plays for Anderson .Paak, and
that's why I know them, because I really like Anderson .Paak. So
it's Anderson .Paak is a singer, a rapper, songwriter from California,
and a drummer. Like he's a very very good drummer.
Right. So the band composing of Jose Rios, who's on the guitar, Ron Avan on the keyboard, Kelsey Gonzalez, the bassist, and Callum Connor on the drums. They decided to come up with an album, a self-titled album, late November or late 2019, and they have a host of other artists on their album. But I really found this one with Chronics really really nice to listen to.
That's great.
It's a really nice mellow track. I think everybody would love it. So that is Eternal Light by the Free Nationals featuring Chronics. And the third song that I have for you is by a lovely lady called Joyce Wrice, and the song is called Blurred Lines. Now she's a songstress from LA and also makes some pretty good R&B music. She's half American and half Japanese. She's done some work with Sir. We talked about Sir. And she said she's influenced and inspired by her dad's records, the records that he used to play. Blurred Lines talks about undefined relationships and cautions about pushing too far when you're already comfortable in whatever, like what you have. Like, why would you want to go spoil it when you're sort of, okay with what you have? Also a very mellow track, beautiful song, Blurred Lines, Joyce Wrice. So the three songs that I have for you: Just Karis, The Waiting Line, Free Nationals featuring Chronics, Eternal Light, and Joyce Wrice with Blurred Lines.
Wonderful. Okay, so I also have 3 songs this week, and the first one is by Mario, the singer Mario, yes, and it's called Drowning. Now, Mario Barrett is a 33-year-old singer and now actor, because he's on, what's that show? The one that with Cookie and whatever. I don't watch it, so like.
Oh, Empire.
Oh my god, it was so stupid. I'm sorry. I know the Empire stands out there. It was stupid from jump. Fight me. So he's a 33-year-old singer from Baltimore, and of course he's known for such hits as Just a Friend from his first album, which I think came out when he was 13 at the time. There was Braid My Hair as well, which I really liked.
He's 33 now?
Yes, wow. He's grown old and
yeah.
Fine. Mario, call me. My goodness. Let me stop. Okay. And of course, from his sophomore album called Turning Point, you had one of my favorite songs of all time, Let Me Love You.
Yes.
And yes, and then of course he had more songs like Why Would You Want to Break Up, Thinking of You. He has a song with Nicki Minaj. He has a roster of hits, actually. Mario is so underrated. Yeah. Like seriously underrated. And in fact, having listened to every album he's ever put out, it's a wonderful body of work which people really need to go back and rediscover, I think. And so I hope you'll do that today. But anyway, so he released 4 albums and then pretty much disappeared. And it was the usual story. Label issues, personal struggles, because as you know, his mom had substance abuse troubles and then died as well. And, he was his mom's only child, etc., etc. So he went through quite a bit in terms of having to rediscover himself. And so he returned to the music scene with an album called Dancing Shadows in 2018. So basically a whole decade had passed between his last album and this latest one. And Drowning is the lead single off of there. And it's, again, as Eddie was talking about, odes to just traditional R&B. This is more traditional contemporary R&B, but the kind of R&B you don't really hear much of these days. And it's a really beautiful song. Of course, Mario has amazing vocals.
Yes.
He's never sang a bad song. Like, he really hasn't. So that's the first song I have for you this week, Drowning by Mario. And the second one is by an artist called St. John, and it's called Borders, and it features Lenny Kravitz. So St. John's full name is Carlos St. John, and he's a singer, he's a rapper, and he's a songwriter. And he's a Guyanese American artist who grew up between New York and Guyana. Both his parents are actually Guyanese, but he was born in New York. And he started out in the industry and gained the most recognition for his songwriting skills. And he's written for artists such as Division, Usher, and of course, recently, some of you might already recognize that name because he wrote and featured on Beyonce's Brown Skin Girl. He wrote that song. Don't let Beyonce tell you different. Oh my God. Okay, so he's been recording music of his own, and in 2019, his second official album came out, and it's called Ghetto Lenny Love Songs. Now, why it's called that is because his nickname, he kind of gave it to himself. He describes himself as the Ghetto Lenny Kravitz. Right. And of course, if you don't know, Lenny Kravitz is a singer-songwriter, rock guitarist, musician, who was married to Lisa Bonet, is the father of Zoe Kravitz, who's an actress right now, and has been one of the more eclectic Black artists that we have, I would say. And he actually got Lenny Kravitz to feature on this song, and so he was very excited. And it's a really interesting song. Once again, I guess it's R&B, but it has more of a, I don't know, just check it out and you tell me again. So that's my second song, Borders by St. John featuring Lenny Kravitz. And the third one is Own It, which you may have heard on the radio. It's been quite popular. It's by Stormzy featuring Ed Sheeran and Burna Boy.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like at this point, nobody that I mentioned just now, I need a background for. Of course, Stormzy is a UK grime artist of Ghanaian descent. His name is Michael Omari. Burna Boy is Burna Boy, and Ed Sheeran is Ed Sheeran. So this song is off his second album. It's called Heavy is the Head. It came out in November 2019. Did very well. And this is the fourth single, and actually, I believe, went to #1 in the UK. It's called Own It. It has a really nice upbeat dancehall tempo. I really enjoy every artist on there's music, so having them all come together is pretty dope. And yeah, that's my third song. So just to recap, I have Drowning by Mario, Borders by St. John featuring Lenny Kravitz, and Own It by Stormzy featuring Ed Sheeran and Burna Boy.
I can't wait to listen to Mario's one.
Oh, it's good. You'll like it. I think you'll like it.
Okay. Right. In What the F? So Spotify has made a playlist and a podcast for dogs to listen to.
What?
While their owners are away.
I need to jump on that for my dog.
So they came up with this after discovering that 74% of UK pet owners play music for their pets. So the podcast, it looks like we have some competition there. So the podcast for the dogs features soothing music, dog-directed praise.
What? Or like good as boy. You're
probably,
a good boy.
Yeah. Stories, messages of affirmation and reassurance narrated by people so that you can reduce your dog's stress
and
while
anxiety.
you're Yes. So Spotify claims that your dog will bark less and sleep more if it listens to these playlists on this podcast. So there is actually a pet playlist feature that curates songs based on your pet's needs. So I actually tried this. I actually went and tried this. And you need to go into the animal-friendly version of Spotify. You select your pet, then you get some questions asked.
Hold on, can I interrupt? Are you using a VPN or how are you using Spotify?
VPN.
Oh, okay.
I can't get access to it.
Spotify, hook us up in Ghana here,
I know,
man.
it's about time. Like, why? You know? So anyway, yeah, so you get asked questions like, is your dog energetic? Is it shy? Is it that and that? And so they based on those questions or based on the answers that you give, they curate a playlist for you. And like I said, I tried this, but there was an error message. So they actually recommended Bow Wow reggae for my dog for me. So that was
Bow Wow
reggae.
Since maybe the way you're into reggae, maybe the dog has acquired
so that was
taste
quite,
for.
yeah, that was quite interesting. It's actually, of course, it's songs made by human beings, not anything else. But it was quite cute to see. And for the podcast, I tried to get into there as well, and I couldn't for some reason. But you've got titles like The Tale Begins or Pulp Fiction. So yeah, I know I find it so cute, and it's really, really cute. You're thinking about your pets.
I know.
So if you have a pet, you might want to go check that out. Check out a podcast for your dog, or check out make a playlist for your dog. What I do wonder though is like, well, cats are very moody. Like, I don't think your cat is going to be. It's just gonna be moody and probably get there.
Exactly. Knock down scratch your laptop.
Exactly. So maybe don't do it for your cats, but definitely do it for your dogs.
Listen, I am like a psycho dog mom type, so I am definitely going to do a playlist or check out this playlist for my dog because she is a spoiled little brat, and that's my baby. And if she might. If she might like music, how do I know? So I'm going to get her a little speaker and whatever. And of course, I'll be accused of going insane, but still, that's my baby. So,
yes,
that's awesome, actually. All right. So my What the F this week is also animal related, and it is about a baboon who worked for 9 years for the Cape Town rail service. Now, this is a throwback story because it takes place all the way in 1885 or so. Now, I suppose the first part of the What the F is that in the 1800s, South Africa already had a functional rail system. And in 2019, in Ghana, ... I'm not going to finish that sentence. Shall we move on? So Jack Baboon, which is his name, was the pet of a rail worker and signalman called James Wide, aka James Jumper. Now, he got that nickname because he was known for jumping between the rail cars. And one day his luck ran out and he fell as he was doing this, and one of the rail cars sort of rolled over his legs, and therefore he lost both his legs at the knee, and he still decided he could work, and so he got this baboon and taught the baboon how to push him in a wheelchair. And then over the course of time, he also started using Jack Baboon to help him do his job. So a signal man, see, they do this, it's automated these days, but the signal person, I don't know if you've ever been on a train, you see the red and green, and then after that, then they actually shift the tracks. And before you had to do it manually, there was some lever you pull and it would shift the rails. Okay. So over time, he was just directing Jack Baboon to do that. And of course, a concerned citizen who was on the train going along his or her day saw this baboon operating the signal system somewhere near Port Elizabeth and reported to the rail authorities. So the rail officials came to investigate, and in doing so, ended up actually officially employing Jack Baboon after discovering that he had very high competency in being a signalman.
Did he get paid?
Yes, he did. So he was employed and his salary was 20 cents a day and half a bottle of beer each week. Yes.
Wow.
So it was reported that in the 9 years that Jack Baboon worked for the Cape Town rail service, he never made a mistake once. And sadly, he passed away in 1890 after contracting tuberculosis. Yeah, so Jack Baboon was a hardworking, simple guy. He liked his beer. And we hope he loved, because he did it for 9 years. But,
but he had a choice.
That's the thing. But at least they paid him. But you have to wonder, did Jack Jumper actually give him that money?
Of course.
Did they put the 20 cents in his hand? No. I mean, I'm sure he may know how to thank you. But anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. Because, of course, today we still have many working animals. Obviously, you would know police dogs being the most known, right? Police dogs, and then of course we have dogs used in the military. World War II, there were what? People don't talk. Millions of horses died in World War One and Two because they were used to pull things and whatever it is. But I think this one is slightly more feel good, and at least he got paid, and we like to think he was a happy guy for his life. So and clearly a clever guy too. So that's the story of Jack Baboon. May he rest in peace.
That's a brilliant story. I like it. So we're on to two Pesewas, and in my two Pesewas today, we're talking about something interesting.
We're always talking about something interesting. Thank you.
So we all do this every now and then. We push off tasks until later, until the very last minute. So that's pretty much procrastination. But there's also another side of the coin, which is precrastination.
Hey.
Yes. And precrastination is a term coined by Professor David Rosenbaum, and it's the tendency to tackle sub-goals at the earliest opportunity, even at the expense of extra effort. So basically, you take on tasks as soon as you get them so that you don't have to shift them for later. Precrastination. Now, in a study that the professor carried out with some colleagues, he explored the weight of load and how participants would carry it out. So what he did was that he had plastic buckets filled with pennies, I think, and the students stood in an alley, and the two buckets were placed at different distances. So let's say one was placed in front and one was placed very close to the finishing line. Mm-hmm. Now, what they discovered was that most of the participants picked up the bucket that was closer to them instead of the one further to the. Mm-hmm. You would think that they'll pick the one further to the finishing line because it's lighter. It will be lighter for them. But they didn't. And when they were asked, why they did this, they were told that they'd rather get the mental task of carrying the bucket off their head instead of waiting until they got there. And so that's the study that he did. And even though it required more physical effort for the participants, they still chose to carry the bucket from where it was closer to them, which was quite interesting. And even though sometimes precrastination feels better than procrastination, what you do is that you may not have enough information at hand to carry out the task. Let's say a client comes to you and presents you with some information to do something, to work on a project for him. You jump on it without actually understanding the full details of what he wants, and then he comes back and you realize that you've done everything in vain, or you haven't fully processed it. And you know how sometimes they say it's better to sleep on something before you actually tackle it. That's all got to do with precrastination. Now, why do we precrastinate? There are two thoughts. One is that it's evolution. So the thing might not be here anymore by tomorrow. So let me grab it while I can. Let me do the task while I can. I may run out of time, so let me do it now. It's an evolutionary thing. So you tend to do it. The second one is conscientiousness. According to research, precrastinators tend to be very rational and not impulse-driven. So it's sort of an organizational thing. I've got this thing in, it's at the back of my head as a to-do list. Let me do it now, right? And organizational psychology states that procrastination is a perversion of diligence. That's quite interesting. Dr. Rosenbaum also states that we precrastinate because we find it mentally taxing to keep up with I have this to do, I have so much to do, I have this thing to do, let me do it now. So that you reduce your cognitive load, so to speak. And there isn't really a precrastination is better than procrastination, but it all depends on the task, right? Mm-hmm. If you think it makes sense to slow down and take your time to do it, so be it. And besides, it's not always that you might have that time to make a decision. Some of the decisions we make are split-second decisions. We just happen, like, I need to do this and I do this now. So you really don't have the time to think, maybe if I procrastinate, it will be better. Or if I did it now, it will be better. So there really is no right or wrong way. You have to judge it based on the situation. Having said all that, are you a precrastinator? Are you a procrastinator? Are you a mix of both? I think I'm a mix of both.
I'm a mix of both, definitely.
Yeah. And I was even going to say, recently I had to fill a form for 2 Pesewas. And even though it was the deadline, I mean, I could have waited a bit and gathered enough information, because after I had sent out the form, she mentioned something to me, and I was like, yeah, if I had taken my time to actually think about it, this might have been the better option.
Right.
So right there, you have it. Sometimes just
Take your time.
Take a time, and then
not too much time.
Yeah, because that can also affect your productivity.
Mm-hmm.
You shift everything to the last minute, and you're like
in a
totally
panic,
panicking. That's also not good. So weigh the
pros and cons.
Exactly, weigh the pros and cons, and then make a decision based on that. And that is precrastination.
All right. Okay. So my 2 Pesewas is on road accidents, and it's been precipitated. First of all, I mean, if you drive in Ghana, obviously the conditions on the roads has gotten to you at some point or another. However, recently, 2 things that happened in the news made me decide to just address the situation again. So in December, the NADMO, which is the National Disaster Relief Organization, I don't know what the acronyms are quite, released a statement to communities along the Tano River from parts of Bono region all the way to the Ahafo region to avoid drinking from the Tano River until further notice. And the reason for this was that a truck carrying 2,500 gallons of sulfuric acid had toppled into the river. So according to the police, it was trying to climb. All rivers are in valleys. So it was trying to climb up and didn't have the torque to do so. So it rolled back and then rolled into the river and dumped the sulfuric acid in the river. And in doing so, killed all the, freshwater marine life, freshwater aquatic life there. Fish, alligators, they were just pulling, all these dead animals out of the water. And then, of course, more recently, if you're in Ghana, you'll know about this because it's been dominated the news headlines for a while. 34 people died in an accident, and many, many more were injured when 2 buses collided on the Cape Coast to Takoradi Highway. So I just want to go over some road statistics, and then we'll get into the crux of the discussion. Now, according to 2015 WHO statistics, there were 1,802 road fatalities in Ghana. And again, that's in 2015. Now, the MTTD, which is the Motor Transport and Traffic Division, said that there were 849 fatalities in 2019, which was actually up from the 2018 figure. Now, I feel like that is an underreported number because 1,800 to 800 is a huge drop-off. And I doubly think, I'm more certain that it's underreported because they themselves stated that there were 116 road fatalities in 2019 in Tema alone, right? So if you extrapolate 8 major cities, I'm sure that number is higher, much higher than 800. So it's probably closer to the 2015 figures from the WHO, which was 1,800. Now, to give you a perspective on how bad that actually is, they have global average statistics, and they have it per 100,000 people, right? So the global average for road fatalities is 18.2 people per 100,000, right? In Ghana, that number is 24 to 26. So we are approaching, we're more than, not double, but it's considerably higher, right? Now, to give you further context for this, the country with the lowest, apart from Monaco, it's not really a country, but the main, actual country with the lowest road fatalities is Norway, and they only have 2.1 fatalities per 100,000 people. So we are doing very, very, very badly in terms of our road fatalities and road safety. And actually, outside of Thailand, all the top 10 countries with the highest number of road fatalities are all African countries.
I'm not surprised.
Liberia, 35.9 per 100,000. DRC, 33.7. CAF, 33.6, and so on and so forth. I mean, and when you have countries with 2, 5, 7, 10, to have 33 people per 100,000 people is just
It's
atrocious.
too much.
It is atrocious. And as usual, people just continue to die like chickens here, and it's like people just make empty platitudes. Okay, so let me circle back to the bus accident now. Both the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Roads and Highways visited the site, and as usual, had a whole bunch of speeches for people. The Minister of Roads and Highways said they're committed to making all the major highways in the country dual carriage roads. And that we can look forward to eventually the Cape Coast Takoradi Highway also becoming dual carriage, because right now it's a single lane road.
It's so windy. The road is exactly so curvy and
no lights. I'll get to that. And so, of course, how the accident happened is because some bus driver, being impatient and very, very stupid, was trying to overtake another car. And then there was a bus coming from the opposite direction, and then they just collided. And the bus driver swerved on the driver's side, and therefore turned the bus so that all the passengers, took the brunt of the impact, and therefore he has survived and is walking around giving interviews. But then, yes, but 34 people are dead, including a 1-year-old child who's on board. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and this bit annoyed me. So the Minister of Transport said that there's a need for more education and that the media should commit more airtime to support road safety campaigns. And I'm like, who exactly are you talking to? The media. Is it the media's job to ensure that there's road safety? So let me put it this way. Every single mechanism in this country meant to ensure our safety on the roads is a flop and a failure.
Yeah.
Now let's start with the driver's license. So it goes to the licensing office. It's well known. You can buy a driver's license in this country. It's not even expensive. It's slightly more difficult now, but it's still easy as pie. So you Now let's all remember, a driver's license is a piece of paper that says that yes, you actually know what to do when you get on the road with other users. So we have. I'm gonna just say majority of the drivers in this country didn't go through the formal process of doing the driving test and all of that. They just went, did some kululu, and got their licenses and hit the road. Now, if you didn't do that, good for you. I didn't. I mean, I learned how to drive and did my first driving test in the States. So there was no way around that. You had to know what the hell you were doing. And I even failed the first time, the practicals, because the car stalled and they're like, go and come again. No, sis. So they really take that stuff seriously. So one, driver's license, you buy. You don't have to really prove to anybody you can actually drive.
Or you can read the signs, or you can see.
Now, the other thing that occurred to me, now people get sensitive when you talk about English and whatever it is. And look, the fact of the matter is, the language of government and in this country is English. It's a separate discussion of whether you think it should be so or not. But it is.
Right now it is.
It is. The driving test is in English. The road signs are in English. Now you think about it. If you've taken public transportation recently, you have a pretty strong sense that the trotro drivers and the bus drivers, are not usually the most well-educated people. So you have to ask yourself, all of them that are walking around with driver's licenses, how did they do the test to pass the driver's license test, to get to a license? It just means that they never literally went and sat and wrote any test and proved anything to anybody. They just went, and then the master or the person who owns the bus went and got some fake license for them to use, and they've hit the road. And they're killing people left, right, and center. The second point, the roadworthy certificate. Here too, if you've been out in this city, you see that some of the vehicles that are on the road have no business. They're leaning to the left, leaning to the right, smoking. They don't have brakes. You can see that anytime you can see the driver using his physical. And yet every bloody year I go and then they hook my car on and they give me a hard time. Oh, your backlight is. So I'm like, if you're so conscientious, how come like half the either they're broken down and they're left on the road so you can ram into it in the night because again no lights, or you can clearly see that this vehicle is not roadworthy and yet is driving up and down on the road. So the licensing office have failed. The roadworthy people have failed because again, there too, you go, you give them some nukofio, as they say, and they'll just scribble something and say that your vehicle has passed, even and then tell you, but Charlie boss, you forgo fix this thing or like it no good or whatever, and they leave you. So the vehicles are in poor condition. The drivers are not up to par, and then you have, traffic enforcement and pedestrian enforcement. The police that are supposed to stop people when they're doing stupid things, fine. We've let them pass through, right? We didn't catch them early. Now they're actually on the roads. That's what the police and the MTTU are supposed to be for. To be like, hey, you must have forgotten from your driving instructions, but you can't do that. Where are they? They're sitting, or they've put plastic chairs under trees and they've gathered in one spot and just watching the cars go by. When they do get up to do anything, it's to be like, hey, stop. Where's your insurance? You don't have. This one, boy, you for pay me, or like, they don't do their jobs. And pedestrians too have no discipline, are just running up and down the road at any point. Every time I'm driving and it's around 3:00 and the kids are coming out of school,
be extra careful.
Because they don't even. I'm like, so you have a whole school system. Why can't they tell them one assembly? Every student must use the zebra crossing. They can't even do that. You want to wait for some world organization to come and give you money
for training
and then you go and sit at some conference and eat the jollof and chicken that they'll provide and the Coke and come in, and you need somebody to come from somewhere to tell you that make sure all schools are have crossings in front of all schools, and make sure at the very least that the kids know that you cannot cross anywhere except the crossing. This too we can't do here. So you have that. The people that are supposed to tell people, don't stop here, you can't do that, nowhere to be seen, only there to put up barriers, checking for nothing and collecting 10 CDs. And then finally, you have a situation where there are no lights. So you combine all these factors: bad drivers, bad cars, pedestrians who don't know what to do, cars that don't know how to observe basic rules of the road, and you're going to have a very toxic situation. And
everybody is at fault.
Everybody has dropped the ball. Every single person. So you come with your, properly roadworthy car, your drivers, and they'll just kill you.
Yeah,
they'll just kill you
because there's something missing.
Because everybody else is not playing their role. You can't do it on your own. Sorry.
And I was just going to say, anytime I'm driving, I'm always yelling at somebody. I'm always yelling because somebody's always doing something stupid.
And I roll down my window and insult them. I don't care, because that's the only. Somebody has to let you know what you're doing isn't right. Because apparently the police can't be bothered, and nobody, checked you before you shouldn't even be on the road in the first place. I mean, it's terrible. And they're just waiting. All they do is wait
for something to happen.
Thank you. And then they come like vultures. They wait for the animal to die, and then they just all appear and trying to figure out how they can make money out of the situation. It's appalling. It's disgusting. We don't want to hear empty platitudes about we need more sensitivity. Who are you talking to? Who? Tell your people to stop issue. If you work at a licensing office, know that when you sign off and hand out these licenses like candy, there's blood on your hands. Exactly. There's blood on your hands, because you are part of the reason why somebody who has no clue, no brain at all, is driving and then goes to drive into and kills a whole busload full of people. It's not right. It's not right. They set us up to fail here every day. And it's so sickening. I'm so tired of it. So anyway, if you are listening now and you know somebody in a position somewhere to do something, please tell them, because we're tired. Yeah. And that's I don't have anything to say.
No, but you said it already. It's appalling. We all have a part to play. The right people should do their work as well, so that we also do our stuff.
Exactly.
Simple.
All right, so
okay then. So that's that.
That's it. I'm tired. I'm out. I'm just like, okay, I'm done.
All right.
See you next week,
see you
guys.
next week. Bye.
Bye.